Weeds. You know, for how little weeds my garden beds actually have, I talk an awful lot about weeding. So on my farm, it's not the garden beds that get the weeds. It's the pathways. So this makes total sense. You know, I have super rich soils in these beds that I water and that I fertilize with my homemade organic fertilizer. Of course, that water is going to seep out onto the pathways, and it's going to be a perfect location for weeds to take over. And if you see these weeds, they're as tall as the beds themselves. So, before you can do any sort of treatment on these pathways, you got to take the weeds down a notch. Now, normally what I would do is I would take the weed whacker through here, get a ton of weed mulch, and then use it on all my beds. However, I've done that on a few pathways, and all my beds are full of mulch. I no longer need mulch. And my compost pile is full. So, that leaves one option: herbicide. Now, as an organic farm, and as a responsible farmer, I'm not going to use chemicals on my farm. Not on the food that I eat, and not on the food that I feed my family. So what option do I have? Easy. You make your own herbicide. So what I do every couple of years is I'll get a truckload of wood chips and I'll actually lay them down in these pathways. And if you use the cedar chips, it suppresses the weeds just perfectly. But when the weeds are like this, you can't simply just lay the wood chips down. You gotta deal with the weeds first. So as I said, a lot of times I'd weed whack them, but you know, depending on the type of weed, sometimes that just makes them come back even more vigorous. So then you got to resort to other treatments. And so doing my research, a few years ago, I came up with this excellent concoction to make your own organic herbicide. Just spray it on the weeds, and within minutes, you can start to see them die off. Now, the greatest thing about this herbicide is that there's no chemicals that'll leave residual effects in your soil. You know, it mostly deals with pH and suffocating the stomata of the weeds. So, let's go ahead and make up a batch. Okay guys, to make up this weed killer, you need an empty clean spray bottle and 4 ingredients. That's it. Ingredient number 1, agricultural vinegar. Basically, it's like regular vinegar, but it's 10% acetic acid. You can use regular household vinegar, just double the amount you put in. Ingredient number 2, lemon juice. Any lemon juice will do. Ingredient number 3, you want an organic hand soap. Now you want it free of perfumes or dyes or phosphates. Any brand will do. I don't really have a brand preference. Just make sure to get it chemical free. Last ingredient, good old water. All right, so let's add our ingredients. Now, this is important. This is the ratio that I do my formula at. You'll see a lot of different recipes online. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. This is just what I've found works. You know, I've trialed about 5 different ratios of ingredients, and this one was the most effective. So, you grab your vinegar. Now this will be about 25% of your total volume. You have your lemon juice, And this will also be 25% of your total volume. At least if you spill it, it smells nice. Next up is your hand soap. Now I usually just put in about 3 tablespoons. Then you just fill up the rest with water. There you go. Organic herbicide for pennies a liter. So, before setting up a demonstration of what this homemade weed killer can do, let's talk a little bit about what each ingredient does for this mixture. So first off, we got the vinegar and the lemon juice. Now they have one job, and all that is to drop the pH. You know, regular household vinegar and lemon juice, in this mixture at about 50% total, because they're 25% each, they can drop that pH of neutral tap water down to 2.5 to 3, which is very acidic. Now the next ingredient is the hand soap. You might be thinking, why would you use hand soap? Well, the hand soap is there not because it itself does anything, even though it does sort of constrict the stomata. It's going to act as a spreader sticker. Now, what's a spreader sticker? So what that does is it brings along the other chemicals, being the vinegar and the lemon juice, and it'll stick it to those leaves. So instead of the vinegar and the lemon juice just running off the leaves like it's hydrophobic, especially on shiny leaves, a lot of these lush weeds have very shiny leaves that are resistant to water, much like kale is. And so what the spreader sticker does is it makes sure that that lemon juice and that vinegar stick to the leaves so that they can do their damage. And the last ingredient is water. Now you just add water simply because you don't need these ingredients at full strength. So why waste the money? You know, you can make big batches of these for pennies because it's, you know, it's cut in half with water. So that's it. Now you know what each ingredient does. Let's go see it in action on some weeds. All right, we got a nice patch of weeds here. Let's spray it with our new organic weed killer, give it 10 minutes, and see the results. So, as you can see, it's been about half an hour here. You can see these broadleaf buttercups really starting to curl up. after just half an hour. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but this guy up here and this one right here and that guy are really starting to turn brown already. The chlorophyll is basically being dissolved. So let's revisit this patch in the morning and see how much more it's degraded. So it's the next morning. It's been about 14 hours since I first sprayed these guys. As you can see, pretty much dead. You can see where I didn't spray. And then look at these guys. No damage to any of this stuff in the bed. So, as you can see, a pretty darn effective weed killer. A couple added benefits of making your own organic herbicide that I wanted to touch on. The first thing is cost. You know, it's obviously far, far cheaper than buying a conventional herbicide, let alone an organic herbicide pre-made from the store. You know, it would probably cost you twice as much to drive to the store, buy a 500 ml spray bottle of regular herbicide than it would be to make liters and liters of this stuff at home without having to go anywhere. Now, the other point I'd like to make is that a lot of these herbicides, even the organic ones, are systemic in that they will have long-lasting effects on the ecosystem of your soil. They're indirect killers. You know, they'll kill weeds, they'll kill your plants, they'll kill beneficial bacteria, they'll kill nematodes. You know, they kill a lot of things indiscriminately, and it can take your soil a long time to recuperate after a spraying. You know, with this herbicide here, it's basically just a change of pH with the surface sticker. That's it. So you're not doing any long-term effects, you know, to your soil and to your growing ecosystem of your garden. That right there is reason enough. Now, another reason, it's pretty obvious, is safety. You know, you don't have to worry about wearing special gloves. You don't have to worry about wearing a mask. You don't have to worry if there's a little bit of overspray and it hits your tomatoes or it hits your watermelon. You know, it's still going to be edible. You know, it's just lemon juice and vinegar. We eat that stuff all the time. So, yeah, safety is a huge benefit of this herbicide. So its benefits are, you know, it's cheap. It's made with readily available materials that we all have in our house. It's safe, and it doesn't have long-lasting effects on the ecosystem of your garden. Really, if you're at a point where you need to spray a weed killer, you got to make your own. And this recipe here, it's dynamite. It works wonders. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful. As always, leave some questions or comments down below. You know, click subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate the support. And I'll see you guys next time.